Mega Lucario got banned because of lies, and Aegislash got banned because the vote was rigged and people were allowed to change it after casting their vote. Bro. Welcome back, Wolfpack. Verlis here, and we are finally back on track with this crazy article detailing the ban logic for Smogon in Generation 6. We got a little distracted with a crazy Aegislash rabbit hole, and we also took a deep dive into Mega Lucario to see if that Pokemon should have been banned, but now we finally get to talk about Mega Kangaskhan and others. But before we do, I actually want to set the timeline for all of this stuff because that was missing in the first video of this series. And also, if you enjoy the video, don't forget to leave a like, share with your friends, comment your thoughts down below. So yeah, let's see what went down. November 12th, Blaziken Quick Ban. People just can't handle the speed boost. That also means Mega Blaziken is gone, because when the Mega's banned, you just ban the item. You can keep Gengar in the game, that's fine. You can keep Kangaskhan or whatever. So yeah, after that, another quick ban, and then another quick ban that finally opened up into the suspect test, which is where things got crazy with Mega Lucario. Like, mythical Pokemon just shouldn't be allowed in competitive Pokemon anyways, so that's already taken care of with the official rules. After that, April 6th, Swagger ban. That's its own can of worms, and the Baton Pass madness that happened in the summer of 2014, was just wild. So 3 or few team members with Baton Pass, 1 member per team, and then 1 member per team that cannot boost speed and other stats. Oh, these kids were so bad, even back in 2014. Then August 2nd is when the Aegislash ban happened, so kind of late into Pokemon X and Y, but this was doing it like alphabetical order, so we kind of lost the chronological context a bit in the first video. And then we have Mawilite, so Mega Mawile getting banned immediately after, and then we just get into the ban happy, must ban everything, keep Aegislash ban. Yeah, it just got crazy. So Generation 6, there's that. Let's talk about Mega Kangaskhan and see what the logic was and if this Pokemon was actually worthy of being banned. Kangaskhan. What a forgetful Pokemon this was. Since her debut, always been overshadowed by other normal types in the game, such as Tauros and Snorlax. Never got recognition outside of being mini Tauros in Red, Blue, Yellow. That's another weird trend with all of this ban logic. It's just making stuff up to justify the bans, back then and even now for Generation 9. But all of that changed come Pokemon X and Y in the form of Mega Kangaskhan. Like Aegislash, Mega Kangaskhan doesn't seem like anything special stat-wise, as we talked about in the Aegislash video. That's all people were saying. It's like, oh yeah, it's 150 no matter what. But how do you just overlook Aegislash's stats and then turn around and say, but yeah, never mind, it's busted? So Mega Kangaskhan doesn't seem to have anything special stat-wise, even though her stats are well-rounded. I mean, those are good stats. I don't... see, the weird thing with all the ban logic is they try to play a devil's advocate where it's like, yeah, on the surface, this Pokemon doesn't look good, but we need to ban it once you really understand, like, every Pokemon. Unless it's something that's supposed to be obviously overpowered, but there was an article I showed with my Aegislash ban video where someone said, yeah, obviously overpowered Pokemon like Mega Kangaskhan and Lucario. Well, if it's obviously overpowered, then you shouldn't be trying to diminish it in any way. And another weird thing about Mega Kangaskhan's stats is that Pokemon Let's Go showed that these stats are really good at their core. Because people thought, well, Mega Kangaskhan without ability and without, like, power-up punch shenanigans is just going to be terrible. It was actually just a solid, sturdy Pokemon for Pokemon Let's Go that just got the job done. So, yeah, that was just kind of weird. However, the element here that made Mega Kangaskhan's attack so lethal was the unique ability Parental Bond. For those who don't know, Parental Bond adds a second hit that's half as powerful as the first to every damaging attack, effectively giving a Choice Band boost while enabling Mega Kangaskhan to break through Focus Sash and Sturdy. But like, the whole metagame of Smogon is Focus Sash isn't viable because it's all entry hazards. All of this at literally no cost. Yeah, that's how Pokemon abilities work. They give the Pokemon a benefit as a passive. Also, the cost is you don't have an item anymore, and technically, like, Pokemon that have Rocky Helmet, you know, Sturdy, Skarmory with the Rocky Helmet means you actually hit again and take another Rocky Helmet hit. Also, if you swing into a King's Shield, you are not a Pokemon anymore. Mega Kangaskhan has the perfect moves to use this ability. Fake Out basically guaranteed Kangaskhan a turn to Mega Evolve against anything except for Ghost types, and acted as a decent priority move for revenge killing purposes. Ah yes, the base 40 without an item that's getting choice banded on a 125. So devastatingly powerful. And yeah, that isn't a weird thing, because like in Pokemon X and Y, in Generation 6, when you Mega'd, you had your original speed. But that actually doesn't really mean anything. Like, what do you mean safely Mega to go from 90 speed to 100? Ooh. Return became an absurdly powerful stab attack. Sucker Punch was also a very powerful move that put sweepers in a tough spot. Yeah, the non-stab banded Sucker Punch from a 125. Again, like, this doesn't really track. Now, these were pretty powerful on their own, but the really threatening move was Power Up Punch, a move that could be mostly useless on anything else. When using Parental Bond, you get the second hit. So yeah, it's like, we already know all this. This made walling Mega Kangaskhan that much harder, as she could weaken the wall with Power Up Punch, get +2 in the mix, and then use the already ridiculously powerful Return to the point where even Hippowdon will still be 2-hit KO'd. Bear in mind that the damage from Power Up Punch will play a huge factor for KOing walls with Return. Yeah, the 40 base power non-stab move. Ooh, that's... Okay, like, he gets the +1 and then hits again and then, like, has extra damage. But, like, it's not a huge factor. Also, it's just, like, really weird how they say you can't wall it. Okay, so then you just, like, actually play balanced into it. Like, a Bruisery Pokemon will just do significant damage to the Kangaskhan. Actually fight it. But no. Were Smogon kids that bad? Like, was it actually just all stall in Generation 6 and earlier? That actually feels about right when I remember playing in the high ladder for OU. That it's just, like, since they didn't know how to play the game, they couldn't be cerebral about it. So it's really just, like, crutching stall. That's it. Anything that threatened that needed to be removed, which was also an argument for Mega Lucario I touched on in the previous video that we can also talk about again. But as powerful as Mega Kangaskhan was, some people still defended this monster, claiming that it wasn't broken. Because it wasn't. Their only argument, that's just another lie in the ban logic, awesome, was the fact that Parental Bond was easily punishable by Rocky Helmet, Iron Barbs, Rough Skin, and it wasn't exactly a poor argument. But there were many more arguments as well, that as we've been kind of mocking, the initial damage isn't even that crazy, and the big thing is, you have to use your Mega. If you go Mega Kangaskhan, then you don't have a Mega Lucario, you don't have a Mega Mawile, you don't have Mega Gyarados, you don't have Mega Venusaur, you don't have your Mega anymore! That's a pretty significant drawback! With a single attack on Rocky Helmet variants of Garchomp and Ferrothorn, Mega Kangaskhan would lose over half its health, which would very quickly kill a reckless player's Mega Kangaskhan. So you switch into the weak Power Up Punch, and then you lose half a Mega. Yeah, this thing doesn't sound that crazy. Wait, here it is. This was good and all, but it put a huge strain on the team building process. Centralizing, even though everyone's running Ferrothorn already because it's Generation 6, and Rocky Helmet Garchomp isn't uncommon, or other Rocky Helmet Pokemon, gotta ban it, you know? The common Pokemon already on a lot of teams hinders the team building process, or finding other ways to play around and grind through the Mega Kangaskhan with alternative win conditions. You burn this thing back when burn did 1/8 of a Pokemon's health each turn, and it doesn't get off the ground because the damage isn't there. Also, that means, like, status play works around the Sucker Punch. Ignore the fan in the background. It's summer. It's hot. This is post-recording. But I forgot to mention, it's also really weird that Mega Kangaskhan wasn't unbanned with all the Megas introduced in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Mega Kangaskhan isn't a Pokemon while Mega Sableye exists, and a big argument that people just kept, like, NPC regurgitating throughout the entire history of, like, Mega's Pokemon being banned was Mega Kangaskhan has no counters. Again, because they give it every possible moveset and EV spread and stuff like that. And this post even mentions some of the counters to Mega Kangaskhan, but then it became over-centralizing because it reduces team building. The arguments were always rigged, and the Pokemon were never unbanned because no fault could be admitted by the god tier elite Smogon players that just know better than you. And you can also use Iron Defense Pokemon or like other defensive setup. But it's weird, like Smogon only believed in stall, but they didn't believe in tank setup, and that's why they got ran over. Also, I guess fighting type Pokemon don't exist. You just have a faster fighting type Pokemon, and then Mega Kangaskhan is going to eat a super effective hit and probably already be chipped because it has to set up the power up punch. Bro, we're just getting back into the same arguments I was making in 2014 as to why the ban logic is so faulty. So let's just say, first it has to be a neutral game state, because Smogon just starts adding in all these things where it's like, well, after Stealth Rocks, okay, but what did that player give up for Stealth Rocks? Because now they're at a disadvantage, so they're earning some of that back through tempo. That's how the game works. Also, outside of turn 1, Kangaskhan is not neutrally going to be on the field. It has to like switch in and take a minor hit, or it also has to be rewarded. Like maybe there's a prediction, oh, the opponent's going to switch into something, so I'm going to switch as well into Mega Kangaskhan. Well, then that means the Mega Kangaskhan player should be rewarded for that prediction. It's not Mega Kangaskhan's power, it's any Pokemon taking advantage of that. Or there's the most common scenario a Pokemon is coming in, and that's Revenge. So that means the Mega Kangaskhan player is at a disadvantage, using their Mega to now have a threat on the field. So if it takes out a Pokemon, then that means the game state is neutral, but the opponent has a little bit of advantage to bring in a proper Revenge Pokemon. This is the exact same thing I said debunking the Mega Kangaskhan ban almost a decade ago. It's actually kind of crazy that I was tapped in back then. So let's say neutral game state, Kangaskhan needs to set up with power-up punches, takes a hit because that's how you trade, so Kangaskhan does have vulnerability inside of that setup, and then it Sucker Punch KOs because like Fake Out, Power Up Punch, Sucker Punch, but then Return, that's not a good move set either. And a lot of Pokemon are just going to survive the Fake Out, Power Up Punch, so whatever. There was a trade. Maybe even to KO. Like, Fake Out hits, you outspeed it, you dab on it a little bit, do half its health, Power Up Punch comes through, you get KO'd, but now it's their Mega Pokemon at half health, and you have the Revenge scenario where you just bring in a fighting type Pokemon, or you bring in your Rocky Helmet Pokemon. If Mega Kangaskhan switches out, that means it's just at half health and it doesn't have the boost anymore, so it needs to trade again to set up, and then that means the Pokemon coming in is going to take a hit, so eventually it just neutralizes. Like, Kangaskhan can kind of just be a good little brawling Pokemon, but in a real Pokemon battle, which is never acknowledged in any of these like hypotheticals to force a ban onto something, it just plays out differently, and that's kind of goes back to what I was talking about in the Aegislash video. There was that forum post where people said, I'm concerned when people say they don't have problems with other Pokemon. And then like the overall summary is, okay, that means you have the skill issue, because if a lot of players aren't having a problem with that Pokemon, that means they're like team building properly and they're playing around it as they should, instead of just getting rolled over and instead of adapting their team, developing the meta, playing different, or having like better gameplay and just being a more skilled player, Smogon players cry about it. This was also one of the arguments I made. I was like, yeah, I don't have a problem with Mega Kangaskhan or any of the things that Smogon wants to ban or has banned. That just means I'm a better player. My team building is good, my strategy and win condition playthrough is also good, and then I just play the game. Like, okay, cool, maybe Kangaskhan gets up 2 Pokemon sometimes. I find a way to bring it back because I can understand the game states, try to get tempo, or play for that neutrality, or trade. Let them get that Pokemon, come back and revenge properly. Get more out of my Mega, or maybe sometimes I just lose to the Kangaskhan, but you lose to anything in this game. You can get chumped by the dumbest things if you're just not ready for it and it sets up on you. And that's kind of another thing, like the ban logic for Mega Lucario getting banned is like 1 Swords Dance and it's over. Well, you gave Mega Lucario the Swords Dance, but also 1 Shell Smash has ended many Pokemon games. But no, apparently the strain on the team building process is you need 2 Rocky Helmet Pokemon to comfortably take on Mega Kangaskhan. Another lie. Some people would even use Rocky Helmet Skarmory along with 2 other Rocky Helmet users for good measure. Well, I mean, at that point, that means like your team is not losing to any physical Pokemon, so you could probably build around that and still have a pretty interesting, well-rounded team, which is a big indicator to the stress that Mega Kangaskhan put on team building. Except not. That just sounds like crutching. That just sounds like skill issue to me, where you don't know how to play against this Pokemon, so you're just doing the default 0 IQ, most basic strategy of handling with it, where you just switch in Rocky Helmet every time. Again, instead of just understanding trades and how team compositions work, that the opponent is eventually going to get a little bit on you at some point, and it's on you as a good battler to try to figure out a way to make use of that trade or get a good revenge scenario. Smogon players, they don't want to do that because they're not good at the game. Man, I keep sounding like a broken record, but that's because the Smogon ban logic is only consistent at being flawed. They just want 10 Pokemon to be viable with all the same predictable movesets and items and stuff, and then just a handshake until whoever gets their switch prediction first, and then that obviously makes you the best player. So you're dedicating 2 whole team slots on the Mega Kangaskhan. Remove this and just put in Mega Pokemon. There's a reason why you only get 1 Mega per battle. That's because the Pokemon is supposed to be powerful. So if it's taking an extra move slot or an extra Pokemon slot to deal with it, that's how the game was balanced. I guess we just see this with Generation 8, where the game was balanced around Dynamax, and they just removed Dynamax, and then nothing made sense. Like, yeah, guess what? Darmanitan, not a Pokemon when Dynamax comes into play. Dracovish, just a terrible Pokemon, even worse when Dynamax comes into play because it loses all of its gimmicks. And becomes easier to deal with if you get it like an Airstream or something, or just chip it down, or survive the hit because you doubled your health. So Smogon just wants Pokemon to be completely different, and that's why they can't function inside of it and have to break the game even more with nonsense bans. That's also why they're just not playing real Pokemon. And it's just, wow. You take modern, like, observation, you apply it to the past, and it's all holding up. You're most likely leaving yourself wide open to other threats. Congratulations, that's Pokemon. You can never team build for everything. They just want 10 viable Pokemon so they can have it team built and planned out. Team building process was basically deciding whether you want to die to Mega Kangaskhan or die to other things. You can still break down Mega Kangaskhan enough without hard focusing on taking it out. So Mega Kangaskhan was quick banned over that. You know what? Watch my Mega Lucario video. It actually helps out a crazy amount in the YouTube algorithm when you watch all of a video, and then you go and you watch all of another video, and then you like, comment, subscribe, watch the full duration, all of that fun stuff. Really good engagement and interaction stuff on that. But really, the biggest takeaway from the Mega Lucario video, still watch it, but I will talk about like what went down here, is that was all lies. That they say like it was lethal because adaptability 145 stab priority moves like Bullet Punch just take out sweeping Pokemon. So sweeping Pokemon are already dealt with, and then all it has to do is set up a Swords Dance, and then tank Pokemon dealt with, and then Mega Lucario beats everything. Problem. When you actually get into the damage calculations, Mega Lucario doesn't one-shot anything with priority Bullet Punch. So faster Pokemon than 112, which is Scarf, or just a lot of common sweepers like Alakazam, Dugtrio, Jolteon of the time, they didn't really care or worry about Mega Lucario. It could even revenge kill a sweeper with an adaptability boosted priority move. I mean, just understanding how damage calculations work now in modern Pokemon, that's obviously a lie when you just have a 145 Pokemon effectively using a stab life orb Bullet Punch. We're not seeing that from like Scizor wrecking everything. Scizor has more Bullet Punch damage. Bro, I just created a regret for myself because I should have put this in the Lucario video where Choice Band Scizor Bullet Punch does more damage than Lucario adaptability or Mega Lucario adaptability Bullet Punch. I mean, we even take out the choice band so you have the freedom to move your item. Bro, Scizor does more damage with a Bullet Punch. So the argument was that Mega Lucario gets dealt with by balanced or offensive teams, and then they call it invalid over a lie that you can easily show with damage calculations. The Smogon Ban History is completely fraudulent, and that's why I have to be cancelled and defamed because the truth is too powerful, and I'm the only one with enough integrity to actually put it out there, because every other PokeTuber is fraudulent and they just want the popular opinion, so all these NPCs agree with them with their lies. Mega Lucario got banned because of lies, and Aegislash got banned because the vote was rigged and people were allowed to change it after casting their vote. Bro. Alright, so now we finally have like a fresh discussion with Mega Mawile, but as this series has shown, nothing is really holding up, and now they're running out of things to ban. So like, it took a while for Mega Mawile, like this, yeah, like it went Mega Lucario, and then Aegislash, and then Mega Mawile. So at this point, you know, you've already taken the cream off the top, which means something else is going to float up. This is just like B tier that now becomes the best thing because you banned everything. When thinking of power, Mega Mawile should immediately come to mind. That's why it took almost a year to get banned. Mega Mawile was a very straightforward Pokemon, boasting unfathomable power like no other, while Mega Lucario's close combat did a smidgen more damage than Mega Mawile's Play Rough. Mega Mawile had the pleasure of having all of its attacks doubling in power, as opposed to Mega Lucario only getting it in stab attacks. Yes, a 105 attack Pokemon without an item doubling in power. These kids don't understand how Pokemon works. It's no wonder when they actually run into something that requires you to think about the game, they just need it banned. Regardless of maximum power, Mega Mawile was still remembered as the hardest hitting thing to ever get banned. Nah? Yeah, it was such a hard hit, the hardest hitting Pokemon ever, apparently, that took so long to get banned. And I think that's also another thing, Mega Mawile versus Aegislash was one of the coolest matchups in Pokemon. There's a lot of my content kind of focused around that going back to Generation 6 because it was so cool. Another thing I've been talking about when it comes to Smogon Bans over the years is that you don't make the game more balanced by removing Jenga pieces. And I'm not saying oh, the only reason that Mega Mawile was in check was because of Aegislash, but then you can also see with Lucario and some of the other bans. But the thing is, Mawile could be dealt with in other ways, that it's going to be weak to fire and ground, which was very common at the time, and it's one of the slowest things to ever exist, so all it has is a non-stab, non-item boosted Sucker Punch to throw your way, and it has to give up something for the Swords Dance turn. Mega Mawile's defensive presence gave it an edge in battle, as its typing gave it an edge over many other wall breakers available in OU. Bro, they're running out of buzzwords they have to repeat it in the same sentence. That's crazy. And now, you're using your Mega Slot for a wall breaker. So yes, the Mega Wall Breaker should be better than other wall breakers inside of the tier, granting it 9 resistances to immunities, but also very common weaknesses, which usually have more effect on a Pokemon's viability than what it resists and is immune to. To complement this, Mega Mawile's solid 55 hit points, defensive stats gave it plenty of bulk to take hits. Now, to be fair, when we get into EV theory, yeah, if you go max hit points, max attack, this Pokemon actually balances out, probably with more durability than Game Freak thought it would have, but even then, you're still going to outspeed it, and you're still going to 2-hit KO it in a lot of situations. It was also complemented because it can Intimidate before Mega Evolving, so Mawile could switch into physical attacks before Mega Evolving if needed. There's probably some trivial damage calculation I can bring up to where it switches into a Fire Punch and then doesn't survive the -1 Fire Punch. I don't know, here's an arbitrary Machamp. Now, here's the thing, Mega Mawile can't switch into Machamp because close combat is actually a lot of damage. That's the thing about the Steel Fairy typing. Neutral to Steel, neutral to Fighting, so it can still get blown up. It actually doesn't have as safe of a switch-in as the article makes it out. Oh wait, more lies for the ban logic! Whoa, who could have guessed? So yeah, the Assault Vest Machamp can't 2-tap it with a Fire Punch if we're factoring in the Intimidate. So yeah, let's say oh man, my Ferrothorn's scared of a Fire Punch from Machamp, so my response is bringing in the Intimidate Mawile. Ooh. Alright, so let's say Mawile takes 60% from that Fire Punch. So now it's sitting at 40%. Machamp goes to -1, and then Machamp just close combat. So yeah, even the Assault Vest, no item boosted Machamp can Fire Punch this switch or something, and then also still hit a close combat, or just 2-tap it on close combat. So there wasn't as many safe things for the Mega Mawile as people have thought. Also, let's look at some other shenanigans. High Jump Kick just KOs the Mawile, and Sucker Punch doesn't have enough to neutrally KO the Mega Medicham. Wow, that huge power is so crazy. Also, the Bullet Punch does some damage here, so let's say Mega Mawile is at +2, but if it took a significant amount to get that Swords Dance because it's trading and then just trying to just one-shot everything with Sucker Punch after that, it's still going to be threatened by some Pokemon. Also, same thing on the Mega Lucario, because oh wait, we have a sweeping fighting type Pokemon, which deals with Kangaskhan, also deals with the Mawile. That was removed from the game. Cool. And if for some reason Lucario needs to be scared of a 30% damage Sucker Punch, or even the +2, 70%, not even 70, 60-some% Sucker Punch, again, Bullet Punch still does about a third. Kind of has these setups. Close combat, 90% to 106%. And again, this being the one and only Mega you get for the battle. So using 1.5 or 2 Pokemon take it out just kind of gets into how Generation 6 played out. You need to get more value out of your Mega. If you do, the chances of winning significantly go up because that's how gimmicks work for a generation. So these kids were not prepared for like Generation 5 and Generation 6, where battle gimmicks did become a thing and are somewhat a sore spot in the community, but they also never adapted, as we saw with the ban for Generation 8 and the suspect test for the terrestrialization in Generation 9. Okay, so this is a lie, but these points paled in comparison to huge power granting Mega Mawile unbelievable power that rivaled that of Mega Lucario. While Mega Lucario had much more speed and could be physical or special, here we go. Here's the devil's advocate that means nothing. That also like just kind of shows, wait, then yeah, we shouldn't be banning it. Why are you putting the weaknesses in here when it actually shows there's more weaknesses than strengths? Mega Mawile was a threat in the sense it almost always lands an attack at least once in a battle thanks to its great bulk. That's right, guys, it gets one attack before getting KO'd, and it's a big hit, so you better watch out. Not like 1-for-1 plus Pokemon have ever existed before or since. This made approaching Mega Mawile a very strenuous task. I mean, we showed the neutral Sucker Punch onto the Metachamp, and it was fine. As very few Pokemon could actually switch into Mega Mawile and live to tell the tale. Now, more hypocrisy and nonsense. Aegislash needs to be banned because there's too many 50-50s in the game. But if Mega Mawile predicted the switch and then didn't get resisted into the Pokemon trying to tank it out, that's just raw skill prediction, not a 50-50. It's like, yeah, you can predict what Mega Mawile is going to do, go into like a Steel-type Pokemon, and then Mega Mawile doesn't have a hit onto it. Intimidate from Gyarados, so like bulky Gyarados kind of removes some options as well. Did Poison-type Pokemon just not exist in Generation 6? I feel like Weezing checks this thing, or actually even counters it, because if you get a Will-O-Wisp onto Mega Mawile, it ceases to exist as a Pokemon. Yeah, look at that. Play Rough is a 4-hit KO. Will-O-Wisp means Sucker Punch is like not going off first, even if it's at a +2. Like you can switch in during the Swords Dance turn, and then you also have the outspeed Will-O-Wisp, so then its attack gets cut back in half with the burn, and then it's taking an 1/8, and then you just are fine. And Weezing was just like a used, tanky, kind of weird, stally Pokemon, so you're not even screwing up your team building, and this probably also deals with other common threats. Whoa! We're playing Pokemon, and it's Levitate, so Lucario can't Earthquake it either. Bro, was Weezing the truth back in Generation 6 that no one refused, where it's just like, yeah, every physical Pokemon folds to Weezing. Maybe that's why you actually saw it a decent amount of times, to where physical Aegislash, Lucario, Kangaskhan, Mawile got nothing on Weezing. You got Stockpile, Pain Split actually wasn't a tutor move, so you just had that in Pokemon X and Y when Mawile got banned, Will-O-Wisp, and then like a Sludge Bomb. So I mean, like, it is annoying when you have to Will-O-Wisp and just kind of sit there and stare at the Mawile for a bit. If you get a couple Stockpiles, maybe a Pain Split keeping you around a third or something by the time all this plays out. Next Pokemon comes in, take the hit, Pain Split, boom, you're back up to 60%. Black Sludge also healing you up and being just good sustain overall. You Will-O-Wisp them, you Sludge Bomb them, maybe got like something else to deal, and then you're just winning the game. So even if you somehow managed to safely bring in a Pokemon, there was the chance that the Pokemon at hand wouldn't have the power to KO and then would have to take a hit, or Mega Mawile would Sucker Punch the hasty player. But taking a hit wasn't the only thing that players didn't want happening during a switch. Swords Dance was all it took to cleanly plow through a team. Except for fighting type moves. Or fairies, even. Fairies have a hard time like hitting into Steel Fairy, but like Sucker Punch isn't KOing you at that point. So a fairy type Pokemon with like hidden power, Specs hidden power, fire could be pretty good. And then it's the classic elitism and demeaning of players. You know, we see this with the Lucario. If I told you that people actually defended this thing, you'd think I was lying. That guy that said, oh yeah, Lucario and Kangaskhan so blatantly overpowered that when people say they didn't have a problem with it, that's just concerning to see. So despite the insane power that Mega Mawile boasted, there were those that opposed a ban. Some people used Mega Mawile's exploitable weaknesses to fire and ground type moves, and there were plenty of Pokemon that could OHKO it. once again, devil's advocate saying, wait, this thing didn't need to be banned. And as we talked about, there's strong neutral move options that make it to where Mega Mawile isn't always going to take off in a Pokemon battle against a balanced team build, which Smogon players are too unskilled to do. However, actually bringing in such a Pokemon usually meant that something already died. Yes, this is how revenge situations work inside of Pokemon. Also, it cost their Mega to do that. Again, Smogon players just want to switch their stall teams indefinitely until they get this double switch prediction, which gives them enough of an advantage to then, like, just kind of hold on to for the battle. What do you mean there's sweeping Pokemon that punish my switch with a Swords Dance or just have too much damage to reliably switch into? It's also why I've been the best player in competitive Pokemon since like Generation 4, because I caught on really early to setup tanks being the best way of playing Pokemon until schizophrenic Japanese players have been like quadruple anti-stall now and the game's a complete mess. But back in Generation 6, anti-stalling wasn't really a thing, and I was one of the only people that was playing setup tanks and just hard winning games with that because, okay, you go Stealth Rocks because you're just default bad player. Well, I get a Stockpile, or I get Iron Defense, or I get a Calm Mind, or something like that. I've kind of already won the game on the spot unless you have a Whirlwind or a Haze, and that was uncommon back then. And then if they try to set up even more, like, I don't care. Also, if I have to switch, I'm switching into a tank that doesn't care about Stockpile and will eventually shrug it off. And since Smogon players want to remove power from the game, they're generally not dealing with it, so they don't have enough power to take out tanks and then just set up and win. Whatever. These were moot points. Ah yes, a Pokemon that could be one-hit KO'd, easily revenged, or chipped away. Just arbitrarily moot point, thrown away. No, no, no. We can't have those pesky facts in our lying ban logic. We need to get this thing banned because we can't deal with it, and that makes us look bad. Didn't you see how we banned Garchomp in Generation 4? Get with it. You don't understand how Smogon works. Some people claim that Heatran was all it took to beat Mega Mawile. And while this was true for Swords Dance set, this was far from the truth for Sub Punch. Ah, that's right, because the very tiny usage of Sub Dynamic Punch made just to KO its counter also means that Heatran doesn't count. So Heatran just like beats 90% Mawiles, and then the Sub Punch set. Like now this gets folded by another team. Once again, like Smogon players, they just want one predictable move set for every Pokemon, unless it's Pokemon they want to ban, in which case it has 700 EVs, 3 natures, 20 different moves, and counters everything in the game. So the Swords Dance set that runs over teams and makes Mawile an impossible threat to deal with, that gets countered by a single common Pokemon in the metagame, and then has to be swapped out for just a garbage set that also needs to play it perfectly. You have to sub immediately on the Mawile, predicting the immediate switch into Heatran. But what if they don't switch into Heatran? Again, that's just the whole Smogon. We understand the perfect switch at all times, therefore your argument is invalid, unless it comes to Aegislash using King Shield, in which case it's just arbitrary. But if you just set up a sub on a 50 base speed Pokemon into an offensive Pokemon, you just lost 25% of your health, and now you're actually in a wider KO range without anything having to happen. And you didn't get your Swords Dance or anything like that. So you're using your Mega Slot to lure a single Pokemon, so you trade Heatran, but that also means Heatran's outspeeding, breaking your sub, getting KO'd by a Focus Punch, and now Mawile's at 75% health in a revenge situation, and that's 1 for 1. It's actually insane that they dismiss an argument because it's a revenge situation, since the rest of the battle, or the rest of that next turn hasn't even played out yet, to where it's like, okay, this is where you equalize, because now you can bring in the Pokemon to stop the opposing Pokemon. And if apparently Mawile always has the perfect set to deal with the switch-in threat, then that means the Pokemon coming in for revenge also has the perfect set to deal with whatever Mawile switches out into. Switch out the Mawile, that Pokemon gets KO'd, and even though Mawile is this strong ban threat, it cost a Mega and 25% health for the game to equalize. Now it's a 5v5. And the Mawile players actually had disadvantage, because Mawile isn't that crazy. Can't have those pesky arguments, no sir. No game sense allowed when it comes to Smogon ban logic. So next we have Greninja, but then we get into Oras, and that kind of like just makes sense to be its own video. So we broke down Mega Mawile, went a bit more into Mega Lucario, also wrapped up with Mega Kangaskhan. So that's the XY ban shenanigans. Didn't talk about like Swagger and Baton Pass, which, nah, don't have the mental for that. But man, that's just crazy. All the logic is just like straight up lying or arbitrarily dismisses the points. We are seeing the like social media derangement, refusal to be proven wrong back in 2014. Emotion-based arguments destroying Pokemon before it destroyed society. Based. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you all have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.